May I speak in the name of our loving, liberating, and life-giving God. Amen. You may be seated. One of my family's favorite holiday movies is the 2004 adaptation of Chris Van Allsburg's popular book, The Polar Express. The story follows a young boy growing up in the 1950s who, like so many protagonists in Christmas films, finds himself doubting the existence of Santa Claus. His younger sister seems entirely enraptured by the season, whereas he steals out of bed on Christmas Eve to review a collection of newspaper clippings about the small Santa being a phony, and to look up the North Pole in his encyclopedia, where he reads that it is not full of elves and magical workshops, but is instead a barren tundra, devoid of life. He overhears his parents whispering that the magic will come to an end soon for him, and the viewer is left with the distinct impression that this pains the boy, even as he is determined to know, not to be taken in by fancy or fantasy, not to be a fool. That same night, a magical train appears just outside his front door, the Polar Express, running down the snowy center of his quiet street, billowing steam. He's invited aboard by a friendly, anxious conductor who is very concerned to get him and another gaggle of children to the North Pole by midnight. Thus begins their fantastic adventure. The boy makes friends, enjoys scrumptious hot chocolate, encounters a ghostly person who seems to haunt the cabins. The train barely makes it across iced-over lakes and steep mountain passes before finally pulling into a magical city on the top of the world, a tidy, brick-walled place decked out in twinkling Christmas lights, all red and green and sprigs of holly. Eventually, they find their way to the town square, along with everyone else who lives there. The entire city center full to bursting with tiny elves in red and white trimmed clothes. Through it all, the boy is disbelieving. They're not really going to the North Pole, are they? This is all just a dream, isn't it? He asks the other children anxiously, do they really believe in Santa? Like for real life? He's taken this mystical journey, glimpsed Command Central for global gift delivery, survived falling into Santa's enormous bag of toys just before it is tied tight. Also, he can find himself here, where Santa's tour of the earth is about to begin. Just then, at the top of an imposing staircase before the tallest building of all, huge doors swing open. An enormous red sleigh emerges, led by the reindeer, decked out with bells. The other children comment on what a beautiful sound the bells are making, but the doubtful boy hears nothing. He watches them shake, but there is no jingle. And realizing the others are having a completely different experience than him, he seems distressed. He wants to hear. He wants to join them in their joy. He wants to believe, which he begins to intuit is the problem. He can't hear the bells because he doubts. He's come all this way. He has seen so much, and still, he does not believe. He has not seen Santa, the one thing he thinks he needs to see to be sure the stories are true. And as a result, he doesn't seem to recognize the magic that's already all around him. For a moment, all is still and silent, and then Santa Claus is coming to town, blasts over the speakers, washing over the crowded square, and a large man in a red coat appears. But the boy's view is blocked by the bodies of others who are jumping and screaming in excitement. He begins to panic, unable to see, wanting to, longing to, when a bell breaks loose from the reindeer ropes and settles near his feet. He picks up the small object, shakes it near his ear, but hears nothing. Heartbroken, seeming to slip away from the technicolor chaos behind him, he closes his eyes and whispers, "I believe, I believe." And then he tries again. A soft jingling is heard, lovely, clear, as his eyes widen. Suddenly he is eclipsed in shadow, and turning around, he sees Santa himself standing behind him, smiling broadly. Eventually, Santa bestows upon this boy the first gift of Christmas, a great honor, whatever his heart desires, and he asks for the bell, which he takes home and cherishes. He awakens the following morning, Christmas Day, unsure if it was all a dream, except that he has the bell, proof of the greatest gift of all, a confidence, a trust, a belief that will last. Today we begin a new year in the life of the church as we observe the first Sunday of Advent. The word Advent means coming, and indeed it is a season when we await the arrival, the appearance, the revelation of Christ in our midst, as Christ was made manifest all those many years ago, born in humility and poverty to an unwed teenage couple from a backwater town in Galilee. It's a season of waiting, watching, wondering, eager to glimpse the one who has promised to come again and again and again. A season of preparation and anticipation. This morning's haunting gospel leaves us with an urgent injunction: keep awake, keep alert. Which, if we think we know what we are waiting for, the birth of Jesus in Bethlehem, the nativity of the Messiah, even the manic rush of Christmas bliss that marks our Decembers now, actually seems rather odd. If Advent is a season spent anticipating Christmas as we know it, well then, we already know what's coming. We've heard the stories countless times. The heavenly host will appear to the shepherds, announcing good news of great joy for all the people. The baby wrapped in swaddling bands, a sign of God's love, come near. If Advent is a season spent anticipating Christmas, there's really no need to keep awake or alert, except to the interminably long list of to-dos ushered in by the holiday season. The gifts that need buying, the trees that need trimming, the cookies that need icing, the parties that need planning, the family members that need avoiding, the cards that need sending, the roast that needs roasting. Who needs to stay awake and alert to anything else when the Nutcracker is back at the ballet and the pageant rehearsals are starting and the Christmas concerts are coming? This season does require a certain measure of harried preparation, but today we're invited to consider something rather stunning. That perhaps, if we think we know what we are waiting for this Advent, that it will be easy to recognize when it comes, that we've seen it all before. We might just be sorely mistaken. Christmas as we know it, with its lovely and stressful moments alike, both worldly and religious, will come on December 25th. Amazon and Hallmark will see to it, if nothing else. But what if that's not the point of Advent at all? What if this season invites us into a rather different kind of preparation? A honing of attention, not because we know what is coming and are eager for it to arrive, but precisely because we don't know what to expect at all and are likely to be shocked when Christ is revealed in our lives. Christ's first coming in Jesus certainly surprised everyone involved. Mary and Joseph's lives were utterly upended, their relationship strained to the point of almost breaking, made a source of familial shame so extreme that when they went to Bethlehem, Joseph's hometown, no cousin or uncle or friend of a friend would have them. Every door is closed, and they wind up out in the cold. And those marginalized shepherds keeping their flocks in fields on the outskirts where outcasts belong, who had all but given up on themselves, are confronted with the alarming truth that God has not given up on them, but sees, knows, loves, and cares. A wonderful thing, surely, except that it means everything would have to change, or maybe already had. Think of the Magi, their journey interrupted, the course of their lives completely changed as a result of their encounter with this child. Think of the heavens themselves, which are rearranged at his birth. Neither Joseph, nor Mary, nor Zechariah, nor Elizabeth, nor the shepherds, nor Herod, nor the Magi, nor the innkeeper knew that God was going to disrupt their everyday lives in this way, inserting God's self into their own busy seasons and tightly packed schedules. Even more, when God did show up, only very few people recognized it as a good thing. For everyone else, Jesus was a scandal, a threat, an inconvenience. Faith in Santa is not quite the same as faith in God. But perhaps we're not all that different from the little boy in the Polar Express. Perhaps we too are so focused on what we expect, what we think makes for belief, all wrapped up in that familiar word Christmas, that we risk missing Christ when Christ actually comes, that we risk missing the grace and goodness and magic that are already here, all around us, all the time. Even more alarmingly, what if we, like the boy, don't need to see to believe, but must take the risk of believing in order to see? Maybe this is the discipline of Advent, of honing our intention, humbling ourselves enough to take the risk of faith. We know that Christ is coming and that Christ's coming will look differently than we expect. So beware, Jesus says. Keep alert, for you do not know the hour or the day or the season. The eerie imagery from Mark's little apocalypse, as it's known to scholars, is meant to shake the reader out of our familiar stupor, our familiar habits, our familiar expectations. Jesus seems to think that we can read our lives as we read the seasons and cycles of the natural world, like the ripening of a fig tree, that God is leaving impressions, clues, nudges, giving us gifts of insight and intuition, synchronicity and excitement in our waiting. God has not hidden God's goodness at all. It is inbreaking all around. Advent might just be an opportunity to reorient ourselves to our own real lives, to reacquaint ourselves with the everyday and ordinary anew, because this is precisely where God is and always has been revealed. In her lovely book, On Looking, cognitive scientist Alexandra Horowitz takes readers on 11 walks through her familiar Manhattan neighborhood, eager to see this most well-known and well-loved place through unfamiliar eyes, to feast on what she calls the spectacle of the ordinary. She walks with an urban sociologist, a physician, a sound designer, an artist, but also with a young child and a dog, opening to seeing the world as they do, decentering her own perspective and immersing herself in theirs. What emerges is a delightful meditation on the power of attention, the art of looking, the practice of presence, and a deepening appreciation that even in the most familiar of places and spaces and seasons, there are worlds within worlds within worlds all around us. The young boy in the Polar Express, desperate to see Santa, struggles to recognize the magic around him, struggles to appreciate and enjoy and delight in the journey to the place where his doubt will be ultimately relieved. We, excited about Christmas, thinking we know that for which we wait, can also miss the glimpses of God that are already here, already all around us. So where is God in breaking, even now, into your life? If we take the example of Christ's first coming to heart, might it be precisely in the places where we feel least comfortable, least prepared, most uncertain, and plagued by doubt, that God is coming to us? What scandal is unsettling the ground beneath our feet, as Jesus' conception unsettled the lives of Mary and Joseph? Where do we feel our power and our influence threatened, as Herod did by the birth of the King of the Jews? Where are our hearts desperate to lead us astray, like the Magi who followed an unfamiliar star, whose journey took a most unexpected turn? Where do we feel inconvenienced, disappointed, most keenly aware of the edge of our power and influence and agency and control? And what if that is precisely where God is drawing near? Keep awake, keep alert, for even now Christ is being born in our midst and longs for us to rejoice in this coming. Amen.